Hello my friends, and welcome back to my channel. We are very close to the end of 2024 and it has been a crazy year. This wraps up my first official year as a published author, so I wanted to kind of do a recap and spit out some stats for you guys and just really reflect on my first year as an indie author. So to start this video off, let me introduce myself. I go by the pen name J.M. Gokey, and I am an independently published fantasy and extreme horror author. And this year I have published 3 books. At the very beginning of this year in February, I released my debut darker fantasy novel, The Chosen, which is book 1 in a series. There's dragons, god-gifted magic, coming of age, prophecy, and a whole lot more. So this is my very special book baby. A little later in the year, I published my first extreme horror short story, Lantern, which is about 30 pages, but has really been a very surprising success for me this year. This book blew up a lot more than I ever expected it to, and a lot of people have read it. A lot of people are planning to read it. I have the sequel coming out in the very beginning of next year in January, and Lantern is currently now out on Audible as an audiobook. So it has been a very exciting year for Lantern. Then in October, specifically October 31st, Halloween, I released my next extreme horror short story, which I do not have a physical copy of at the moment. It is called The Hate Bug, so I will insert an image somewhere. But yeah, it is a fun short read about a demonic parasitic bug that has a vengeance for one family in particular. So that was a lot of fun too. So yeah, I went into the year planning to publish my one fantasy book and then focus the rest of the year on writing the sequel. I did those things, but I also released my 2 extreme horror short stories, which were a lot of fun to read, and I have met a lot of incredible readers and writer friends in the extreme horror community. So I mean, I guess it was a good thing. For 2024, with it being my first year as a published author, I published primarily through KDP, so all of the stats that I'm gonna talk about will be directly from KDP. So for my first year as an author, I sold 228 copies of my books, which that number does include free promos that I participated in. So I'd say the number is probably closer to 150, but I'm still happy with it. 191 of those copies sold were ebooks, and the other 37 were physical print paperback books, which is really cool to think that there's at least 37 of my books somewhere in the world floating around. The most in terms of print copies that I sold is honestly no surprise for me. It was 25 copies for my novel, The Chosen. And also through KDP, I am enrolled all of my books into Kindle Unlimited. So through Kindle Unlimited for 2024, there were 5,641 pages of my books read. 3,244 of those pages read were for my novel, The Chosen, which equals out to around 14 people who have read it through Kindle Unlimited. For my short story, Lantern, we had 1,285 pages read through Kindle Unlimited. That equals out to around 43 people reading it through Kindle Unlimited. And for The Hate Bug, we had 831 pages read. And that equals out it being read through Kindle Unlimited around 28 times. For the entirety of 2024, I earned $171.83 through KDP. Now, I went into publishing with pretty much a non-existent budget, so while I did cut costs through designing my own covers, doing most of my own editing, and obviously doing all of my own marketing, I did have to use quite a few subscription services to be able to do those all, so I would say that my total profit would probably be closer to anywhere between $70 to $90, which I'm still happy with because it's my first year and I learned a lot my first year. Like many others, I definitely made a lot of mistakes, but I also learned a lot of really useful things this year that is going to help make 2025 a really, really successful year for me and my writing. So I have a lot of projects lined up in 2025 that I will be teasing with you guys soon. I have at least 1 or 2 fantasy novels that will be releasing, and probably a couple short stories here and there. So yeah, Happy New Year to all of you, and I'm so excited to see what's in store for 2025.